People need an income that's guaranteed to them.
If you lose money to taxes, you're never getting that money back.
You need to get serious about adding some lower risk.
Greed. I don't like greed.
The thing to be afraid of, honestly, is the thing that we're not thinking of, the black swan event.
There's a tsunami coming. Bye.
Welcome to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Just coffee talk.
There's a lot of noise, a lot of chatter. Who do you listen to? Who do you not listen to? You have to stay focused.
A fun and informative look at the issues of wealth, retirement, and protecting your life savings.
These advisors out there that were trained to sell, and have all these fees. They don't want to talk about this product, so they make less money.
And now, Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Welcome once again to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. My name is Randy Cook, and each week Charisse and I sit down here and talk about some of the things that are going on out there financially. You know, Wall Street and red arrows and green arrows and all that business. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we're hitting the most important topics, and that is, how is all of that affecting you and your ability to retire, and who do you have helping you? And that is why we have this show. Charisse, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's been a good, busy week, and something fun and accidental happened yesterday, which I thought was interesting.
Okay.
I walked into a room and sat down, and good old Eddie George was sitting right next to me. We played golf at Pebble Beach back in 2021. We did a radio interview, and that day we did that radio interview, he was announced to be the head coach for Tennessee State University. Mm-hmm. So we talked about it. So he wants to come back on the show and do another radio interview. We talked about his son, who's going to be coming to the college. Now he's at Bowling Green, and he's going to be coaching his son. We talked about all this family stuff. So it was really fun. Then we ended up having lunch by default, and then meeting up with like Sean McVay and Kevin O'Connell.
Nice.
Yeah, it was like one of those moments where you were in the right place at the right time, and it was very fun, actually. So nice. A good day that was unexpected, and a couple of radio interviews, and now we're talking financial planning, so that's exciting.
Well, we'll have to drag that interview out again and post that up so people can hear that. That'll be good.
Yeah, that would be fun.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about what's going on right now. We'll geek out on some numbers here because all of us are still dealing with high prices every time we go to the grocery store. And, you know, the inflation rate came out and it was down to 2.3%. The Fed wants it down to 2%. That's their goal. So we wonder what Jerome Powell is going to do with rates this year. Some people say he'll leave them alone. Some people say 2 pullbacks on rates. Some people say 5. I mean, it's kind of crazy. But Charisse, you go to the grocery store. I'm there every single week. And, you know, there's some things that have come down. I mean, eggs have come down. Gas has come down. Vegetables have come down. But there's still, meat and soda. What's with soda? Why is a 12-pack of Diet Coke $10 now? What's up with that?
It is just ridiculous. It's called shrinkflation. Shrinkflation. So they shrunk products, and then they raised the price on the regular stuff. It's outrageous. I was just at the gas station driving back from Jacksonville, and just went into like a Quick Mart gas station, and I got one of those freeze milkshake ice creams.
Okay.
I know. I'm letting everybody know. I was really bad yesterday.
God is going to get you here, but please continue.
I know. And then 2 very large chocolate chip cookies, and it was $17. I know. I'm totally letting people know. And I'm fasting today because of it. Total fast day. But $17. I told the lady, like, I couldn't help myself. I'm like, that is so crazy. This little order was $17. She's like, I know. I went to McDonald's yesterday for 2 meals. I haven't been there in a year. She went $30. I'm like, $30
for 2 people.
Yeah. I went, I know it. We've talked about inflation, hyperinflation, and it is real out there. Like, I don't even know how you take a family, husband, wife, and 3 kids to McDonald's and maybe not pay
that's a
$40,
$50-$60. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, why would anybody go there anymore? You can go to a restaurant and pay $60 for that. Mm-hmm. It's getting, the prices are just outrageous. And I just don't even actually understand how people are living these days.
I know it. And this is, something that we talk about all the time is making sure that income is there for you in your retirement years and how prices continue to go up. So when you put together a financial plan, a retirement plan for somebody, and they say, well, Charisse, I can do this on $6,000 a month. And then you look at them and say, well, in 5 or 10 years, it's going to have to be double that. And they look at you, like you got 3 heads, but it's true. You got to build that in, don't you?
You do. And one thing that was unexpected is over the last few years, we had a quick little inflationary period where everything went up 20 to 25% and even a little bit higher, including your electric bills.
Right.
And they're not bringing those down. So now we're on even keel with inflation going up, an average of 3, under 3, maybe a little over 3. But we still are stuck with that higher price item. And we can't get rid of it. And so I just, I think we're starting to feel the effects of it in the markets. I mean, that's not the reason why I feel the markets are doing what they're doing, but there's just an effect. And you can see the economy is changing. People are spending just a little less. It's interesting watching these dynamics take place based on what's happened over the last few years. It's, it's compounding, and the balloon's going to bust eventually.
Well, the Diet Coke thing has just got me all outrageous here.
Stop drinking Diet Coke.
I know it, but I can't see myself not drinking Diet Coke. So in 2010, a 12-pack of Coke was $4 to $5. And then in 2015, 5 years later, it was $2 more, $6. In 2020, it was $7. And now in 2025, it is $10. So it's gone from 4 to 10 in 15 years. You will very likely be in retirement for more than 15 years. So there's an increase of almost or more than double in just one little item there that you might drink, and I know I do. And so these are things that we have to, accommodate for when we sit down and build a plan. So I think it's important to take those things into consideration, because if you don't have somebody pointing that out like you do, Charisse, you'll say, I can do this on $6,000 a month, and 5 years later you're going, I guess I can't.
Well, I'll tell you this much. We do income planning. That's one of the legs that we do here at Zinnia Wealth. And it is interesting because this year, all of our reviews are coming in, and we've set our inflation adjustable income streams for all of our clients going up by 3% on average. And then we do stress tests. So we're like, well, what if it goes up 5% on average over the next 10 years? And I had a client come in saying, well, Charisse, can you front load my income and say, okay, now that inflation's up 25%, moving forward, can we do 3%? And the whole point of that is to make sure you have enough money buttoned up and that you don't run out of income halfway through retirement, because inflation can erode your income, right? And or you have to cut things out in retirement. And why would anybody want to do that in retirement, Grandy? We did that. And most people who are retired today did that their entire lives. They clipped coupons. They worked hard. They deposited money into their 401ks. They did everything right. So now you got to look forward, since you did everything right, is make sure that plan is going to continue to be right over the next 30 to 40 years. And people forget to add that inflation adjustable income, that need, because $10,000 today in groceries is not going to be $10,000 in 10 years, nor $10,000 in 20 years. And you want to make sure before you turn in those keys to retirement and walk out the double doors and collect your last paycheck from your employer, that you have actually saved enough to weather some of these hyperinflationary periods, these market drawdown periods, and all the other stuff that goes on in the next 30 to 40 years.
It's a part of retirement planning that if you're trying to do this yourself, you probably will not address it. And then 5 years into retirement, you're going, holy cow, what do I do? So why not head that off right now? Give Charisse a call and let's build that into the plan. 833-368-3680 is our number, 833-368-3680, or use our website, which is zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. And there's a gold box there. It says complimentary retirement consultation. That's exactly what it is. It's a no cost, no obligation meeting to just sit down and talk through issues just like this. Well, something else that happened in the news just recently is Warren Buffett decided he was going to step down. He's finally going to retire at the age of 94. So, we're all wondering.
I'm surprised he didn't push it to 100.
We're all wondering if we should retire at 65. He goes to 94. Okay. Well, anyway, when I think of Warren Buffett, we have played a lot of clips of Warren Buffett on this show and talked a lot about what he says on this show. So somebody just asked him, what do you think about the market right now? And he kind of dragged out another one of his, tried and true pieces of advice. Don't let emotions dictate your investment decisions. And looking at the market right now, here's what he said.
If it makes a difference to you whether your stocks are down 15% or not, you need to get a somewhat different investment philosophy. Certainly in the next 20 years, you'll see a period that somebody in the market described one time as a hair curler compared to anything you've seen before. It just happens periodically. That's part of the stock market, and that's what makes it a good place to focus your efforts if you've got the proper temperament for it. People have emotions, but you got to check them at the door when you invest.
All right. So, Charisse, your impressions of this huge financial icon, and then the things that he talks about, the very common sense things, do they still hold? I mean, buy and hold, we talk about that. Do those things still hold up today?
You know, it depends how much income you need. It depends where you're pulling your money from. But buy and hold works, but does it work in the new season of life that you're in? So most of our clients have a small buy and hold account. They have a small quarterly actively traded account. They also have a day trading portfolio. They also have 1 and 2 year notes. They also have things that are compounding that never go backwards. So it's a mixed allocation strategy. And that's because, just like Warren was saying, if your accounts are down 15% and your temperament isn't as canny as it used to be 10 and 15, 20 years ago, then maybe it's time to change. Maybe the buy and hold doesn't work, right? Because like he said, over the next 20 years, there's going to be a big crash or two, right? And how are you going to handle it? Are you going to have big emotions and sell at the bottom because you need your income? So controlling emotions when markets are wobbly, you have to figure out, can you handle it? If you have $1 million and now the market went down 15%, you have $850,000. So my question to the listener is this: that 15% loss, does that stop you from booking your next cruise? Does that stop you from going on a trip or spending money? And if it does, then yes, your temperament probably isn't going to fare very well as markets are wobbly, because you don't want the market to dictate what you're booking for fun in retirement and not booking, let alone if you need that money to pay your bills. That was just fun. What if you need, $40,000 a year to help pay your bills and your $1 million goes down to $850,000? I hope you're not pulling that money out of the stock market, number one. So when people come in, you have to check your emotions at the door here at Zinnia Wealth. The first question is, can you handle losing 10% if you have $1 million? And most people say yes. Then the second question is, can you handle losing $100,000 of that $1 million that you have? And they'll always say, no, $100,000, no. And these are two really important questions, because 10% of $1 million is $100,000.
Right.
And so the sound of 10% is like no big deal. But when you hear the dollars and cents of $100,000, it is a big deal, because that person right there and then who hears $100,000 is saying, well, I'm collecting, $4,000 a month out of that $1 million. And I just lost $100,000, and now I'm still having to take that $4,000 every year, that $48,000 a year. And all of a sudden it starts to click. No, I can't afford to lose $100,000 because I need $48,000 for the next 12 months. So this is why when you are in retirement, you work with retirement planners that have more than just a 60-40 portfolio, right? More than just a bank for a savings account. You want a mixed asset allocation, things that you can still have the buy and hold, right? But we need to figure out, can a lot go in that buy and hold portfolio that has bobble in the market, or is it just a little? Because that's for the long term. When you need your bill money, that $4,000 a month, or you need to pay for that cruise, you want to make sure it's not coming from that account that's bobbling. There needs to be a couple other accounts not moving at all that you can pull those dollars from, because that is the number one fear in retirement, is running out of money. And that's because people are pulling money out of the stock market accounts to pay just their basic bills, let alone travel when markets are going down. And it's been an interesting year, and pulling money out of these Fidelity accounts, Schwab accounts, all these different market accounts. You guys don't feel it yet, but you're going to see that the recovery of your accounts aren't going to be what you're used to, especially if you're living on these dollars, because you can never make a return on those dollars again. Those dollars will never come back into the account because you need it during this phase of life called the decumulation phase, where you're living on your money. So we just want to make sure we're proactive, and a little active management in a portfolio is great. A little compounding is great. A little buy and hold is great. We want some liquidity. That's also very great. But everybody wants to make their money.
Well, the last 2 months have been kind of a test of our investing temperament. I mean, when the market went down 16%, let me ask you, you looked at your account. How did you feel? And I'll bet you said this: when it comes back, I'm going to do something. I don't like this. I don't want to have this happen again. Well, here we are. Your accounts are back up. What are you going to do? Now is that greed setting in and you're going, well, it's going back up. Let's just let it go. Well, you know what? In 2 months or 3 months, when these tariffs take place again and the market goes down, how are you going to feel? Why don't you cut that off right now? Or why don't you say to yourself, what would I feel like if I was in retirement right now and all this was happening? Okay, now we get down to it. Give us a call. Let's do something about this. Let's have a meeting. Let's do the math. And let's not talk percentages. Let's talk dollars. 833-368-3680. 833-368-3680 or ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. There's a gold box that says complimentary retirement consultation. That's a no cost, no obligation meeting where we sit down and do exactly what we just talked about. Let's talk about you and your money in the market and how much do you want in there now and in retirement. All right, new survey from the Employee Benefit Research Institute found this. I thought it was interesting. 78% of the people they talked to said, I think I'm going to have enough money for retirement and retire comfortably. That's good. 70% of those people said the reason they feel that way is because they've built in guaranteed lifetime income.
That's a big percentage.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe that's the new MVP, because Sharice, you and I have talked about it in the past in the conference room when you sit down and say, hey, look, this is your paycheck in retirement. And they go, well, that's what I was making while I was working, or that's even more than what I was working, or I can do it on that. And that's a good moment, isn't it?
It is. When you retire, a lot of people, they want to start collecting their Social Security checks as long as you're 62 and older. And very few people have that beautiful thing called a pension. Those are dinosaurs, as my son would call it. And but the people who do have those pensions, they're clicking their heels. They're enjoying retirement because usually your Social Security and your pension is going to pay all your fixed bills, the light bill, the gas at the pump, the grocery bill, all that stuff, right? And then whatever's saved in those 401ks is just gravy. That's extra money. But there are a lot of people out there that have learned that, okay, we don't get a pension. We have this 401k, this big chunk of money, and now we got to figure out how to make sure we don't outlive it. And a lot of those people, you said 70% out of 78% loving this guaranteed lifetime income strategy. It's very appealing. So that's called building protective income. So those people who retired and did not get a pension, you can take a chunk of your money from your 401k, take $100,000, $200,000, as much as you want, roll it into this protective income building strategy, and turn on a guaranteed income for the rest of your life. It is a pension. It's your private pension without the employer having to do it. And it's basically the same thing that your employer was doing, but now you could do it with firms like ours. And so I would say maybe 40% of the people that come into our office, Randy, do this, and the other 60% do not. And but I will tell you that 40%, they can relate to this survey because for some reason they're like, they get their paychecks, they're happy about it. They don't even care what that account grows as they're taking these paychecks, because if one spouse passes, it passes to the next spouse that's still alive in the house. And it can still make money. So if you have a pension at an employer firm, well, when you die, the money dies with you basically after 10 years. When you come to the private world and work with companies like ours, your private pension, if you die, of course, it can go to the surviving spouse. But then let's say the second spouse passes, that money is still making money and it can be inherited by your kids or other family members. So there's a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more options, just depending how long you live. Now, if you live to 90 to 100, there's going to be nothing left for beneficiaries, right? That's a long time because it's giving you really more income than you're supposed to take from an account. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you put $100,000 into this protective income strategy. And in 10 years, it will guarantee to grow $250,000. 10 years from now, say you're 60, now you're 70. Let's say you have longevity, mom, dad lived into their 90s. Basically, it's paying you back your money, but it's giving you a higher income than you could have pulled from a $250,000 account, right? Because they say don't take more than 4%. And it's basically giving you 7%, maybe 6%, just depending on your age. So there's a lot of value to it, but a lot of people might not need as much income. And so that would be a reason why they wouldn't go down that strategy, that building protective income strategy. But there's a lot of other protective strategies out there. But I will say it is a neat strategy. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, right? So if you got $1 million, you might put 200,000 into that strategy to button up, making sure that if you pass away, those bills can still be paid for that surviving spouse in the house, and that they don't become financially destitute in case the other dollars have been abused or been used, right? So you always have that income coming in.
Well, you and I have talked a lot about people spending money and not spending money in retirement. And I read a story just recently that if you have a pension, people who have pensions, or it also said a pension-like income, those people are spending 40% more money than regular retirees in retirement.
It's so true.
They know that bucket is going to get filled up every month. Yeah, if it's $3,000,
they want to spend it.
Yeah, and if they don't, it just goes up, and they go, I got to spend some of this money.
That's exactly what happens. So some of our clients that come in for their annual review, they're like, hey, I got this extra $25,000 in there. I'm like, are you not spending that money, that check that's being dished out to you every month? They're like, well, I'm not spending all of it. I said, the point of it is to spend it. They're like, yeah, I'm still getting used to spending my money. So then the next year they'll come, they're like, hey, we need more money. So they're listening, right? It's a fun thing to evolve into and watch our clients go from having a hard time spending to like, oh, I have no problem spending anymore. Can I spend a little bit more? Let's relook at this income plan, Cherise.
Yeah.
It's fun.
I love the stories that you come in with along those lines. I always remember the one where the woman said she was going to go on cruises, and she came in for her second meeting, and you looked at her and you said, have you gone on the cruise yet? And she said, no. And you shook your finger and you said, I don't want to see you again until I see tickets in your hand and you are cruising. And
yes,
this is
fun.
This is
I still do that. I
know. And everybody worries that, oh, she's going to tell me I have to go back to work. Oh, there's not going to be enough money. But what happens a lot is that the money that's coming in is not only enough, but it's more than enough. And people see their accounts go up, and then they realize, I've done all this work, and now I'm going to benefit from it. So get out there and spend your money. Let's sit down and build a plan so that you can feel confident in retirement that you're not going to run out, and you can go out and enjoy the things you've always wanted to do. Give us a call, 833-368-3680. Again, 833-368-3680. Let's do a meeting, and as Cherise says every single week, let's do the math on your retirement. What's coming in? What's going out? Let's figure out your retirement. You can find us online as well, ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. There's a gold box there. It says complimentary retirement consultation. That's a meeting to talk about your retirement. That's as simple as I can say it. Let's do that and start the math on your retirement. ZinniaWealth.com. All right, so Cherise, we bring in 401ks. We bring in IRAs to help us fund our retirement. But the problem is, of course, is when it comes to those two things, they're tax infested. And sometimes we talk about, conversions, but we're going to talk about that in just a second. I want to talk about this idea of a rollover. I'm going to take this from my employer account, and I'm going to put it into my own personal account. Now I've got more choices, things like that. Is a rollover, tell me the benefits, the ups and the downs of rollovers and some of the mistakes. This article in front of me says you got to watch yourself not to make a mistake when you do this. What do we have to watch out for?
Yes. So, from personal experience, we're going to talk about if you're working and you want to do a rollover, and then if you're retired and you want to do a rollover. Okay. So I'm going to move ahead and say, let's say you are retired and you want to do a rollover. And the rollover just means we are rolling over your 401k, your TSP, your TIAA-CREF, 403b, whatever it is. We're rolling it now to an IRA with some advisor local to you that you trust that wants to start working on your plan, right? You're rolling it over, and it's a special rollover form that has to be filled out. Because if you just say, hey, send me the check in a couple months, I will find an advisor, that is an indirect rollover. And you have, 60 days to get it back into an IRA. And a lot of people don't do that because they don't even know about this rule. And then you get taxed on every dollar of it.
Ouch.
And if you had $1 million, think about it's taxed at your marginal tax rates. And you said, hey, just send me the check. And that $1 million, you put it in your bank account and you're in day 62. That $1 million is now added to your income. If your income was 100 grand, now your income is 1.1 million, and you could say almost goodbye to half of it, right? Because you have to pay Uncle Sam, and there's no forgiving here. Like you're stuck in that.
Okay.
And so, 10 years ago, I met somebody, and they had already done this, and they came to me. It was like day 70, and I'd never met them before. They're like, "Hey, I heard you on your radio show, and I took this. It was like 700 grand." I had it deposited to me. Now I'm seeing this huge tax bill. What's this to happen? I'm like, you did not do a rollover. You took the check. This was indirect rollover. And now you got to pay the tax bill. And his jaw dropped. He's like, I didn't know what I didn't know. And I've been listening to you for years. I cannot believe I did that. So you want to make sure you use a form. Your employers will give you a form. Sometimes you got to ask for them. Most of the time they do get them to you. And then you can move it to an IRA. And then now there's no taxes or penalties or anything like that. And now that it's in the IRA, the world is your oyster. Sky's the limit. You got 30,000 options now to choose from for investment. So it's a really good idea versus leaving it in a TSP where you have a small menu. And when you got like maybe 20 options, not even. And now you can have 30,000 options. So, and it makes sense. Now, that's if you're retired. Now, what if you're not retired and you're still working and you're like, Sharice, I'm going to work till 64 years old, but you're 60 right now. Well, what you can do is most companies, 9 out of 10 of them across the United States, they allow you to do an in-service distribution where you can roll over those 401ks to an IRA, even though you're not retired. So you can do the same thing. And the reason why they do it, I'm not exactly sure. So I'm going to make the assumption it's because they're so kind and sweet and they want you to have access to your money so you can start planning with it and prepping for retirement. So you can do that without any penalties, any taxes. We do it all the time with people. And we start working up a retirement plan before you retire and get things rolling the right way versus keeping it in a 401k or a TCREF or a TSP or 403b. Where you get a menu of maybe 20, sometimes only 10 options for investment strategies. So it's a nice thing to do. So if you are 59 and a half and older and you're still working and you want to keep working, that is something to consider. So you want to come in and see us, and we'll be happy to talk to you about why it's important to roll your retirement accounts over to an IRA before you retire and start working on that plan and getting familiar with what's out there and actually get a little bit educated. It's very valuable. And you never know. I tell people all the time, if you leave your money in a 401k when you can move it out and the market crashes and you didn't do anything about it and it loses 30%, the chances of you retiring is not likely, and you're gonna have a forced hand to continue to work. So why not make that rollover? Why not make that switch if you're allowed to, right? If there's 9 out of 10 people out there working today that are 59 and a half and older that can roll over those 401ks to an IRA without penalty or taxes, why wouldn't they? And the question is, they always do. They're like, oh, yeah, let's do this.
You're listening to Retirement Coffee Talk with Sharice Rivers at Zinnia Wealth, talking about what to do with your IRAs and your 401ks and the idea of rolling it into another retirement account that is your personal account. You're not dealing with your employer anymore. I mean, think about 2008. You watched your 401k get cut in half, and then you felt kind of helpless. The market is taking my money away. Well, if you were in retirement and you had control of that money and you could put it where you wanted to put it and you had more choices there, maybe you don't go down like you did in 2008. Now, then comes the other option here. That's the rollover. Now we're going to talk about the conversion. Now we're moving this money from a taxable place to a non-taxed place or a tax-free place, but we have to pay the taxes along the way. Talk about the pros and the cons of that and what are the mistakes or any things that we have to watch there.
Yeah. So here's another reason to roll your 401k to an IRA when you're 59 and a half and older and still working. The neat thing is that a lot of people want to start getting some of these IRAs and these dollars out of these IRAs into something tax-free. And there's this window, and really over the next 4 to 5 years, you could be in the lowest marginal tax bracket we might ever see in history. And they want to get the dollars out of those IRAs to that Roth IRA so they can have tax-free income in the future potentially. To do that, you do have to move your 401ks to an IRA first. You cannot take your 401k and then roll it to a Roth IRA. So there's steps. So a lot of people are like, okay, let's move this 401k. I'm still working. We'll move it to an IRA and let's slowly, based on our tax plan that we'll show you, roll a little bit every year. We don't want you to get hit with this huge tax bill, but we're going to show you what it's going to cost. We're going to show you how to do it. And we're going to show you how much. And we're going to show you the longevity of it based on today's taxes and the marginal rates that you're in. And, over the next 30 years, does it even make sense? So part of our tax plan, I think this is secondly, people love our income planning software, but they really love our tax planning software because it's the first time they've ever seen a firm show them, okay, rolling an IRA to a Roth IRA makes sense. I get it. But to dial in and see the math and get granular for the average Joe to understand is the most impeccable thing that we do here. And we try to keep things very simple. We try to do the math on all things. We don't want you just to do it because it's the buzzword. Hey, taxes are on sale. Time to roll your IRA to a Roth. No, we don't do it because of that. We do it because we're showing you the money. We're showing you the math. And 1 out of 20 people who come in and see us, when we show you the math, it actually doesn't make sense to do it. So what if you were one of those 20 people? Don't you want to know? And then the other 19, don't you want to know? Does it make sense for longevity? Does it put $1 million back into the legacy to your kiddos and your widows and widowers if you pass away early or even later? And that's what we're going to show you.
Yeah, it was interesting that I was thinking about these RMDs the other day and 401ks, and as I was writing the story up, and I said, the average person in retirement spends about $6,000 a month. So let's break that down a little bit. Maybe you're a couple and you get $3,000 to $4,000 a month from Social Security. Now let's just say you need another $3,000. Well, that's $36,000 a year that you have to take out of your 401k. So when you get to RMD age, when the government says, no, you have to take this money.
Which is 73 now.
Right. And it's about 3%. So 3% of your $1 million is $36,000. Why is this a big deal? And then I read this story. I was going to bring this in next week, but I'm going to bring it in right now. There's an Ask the Advisor story where a guy is 87 years old. Okay. And he is taking RMDs now, and he still has like $1.5 million in his account. His RMD is $123,000. He has to take that money. And it is causing his Social Security to be taxed. It is causing his Medicare premiums to go up. It is killing him in taxes at the age of 87. And I said, well, there it is right there. That is what we're trying to avoid, isn't it? If you have a nice account and you over $1 million, there comes a time in your later years where Uncle Sam is saying, you got to empty this account and you got to get it done fast. And all of a sudden you're getting hammered in taxes in your 80s.
It's true. So when you are 73, this is the age now that you have to start pulling money out of these 401ks and IRAs if you're retired. And it's almost 4% withdrawal that you have to pull out at age 73. And every year that percentage goes up. By the time that you are in your late 80s, you are forced to pull out 8%. And it keeps going up. It doesn't go away. So if you have $1 million now, and 4% of $1 million is $40,000. And then let's say that $1 million over 15 years doubles, right? That's a conservative number. Now it's at 2 million. And now you're in your 80s, you're having to pull 8% out of $2 million. Congratulations, Uncle Sam. Just made a boatload of money, say $160,000 is what you have to pull out, and you're paying taxes. So now your Medicare is taxed. You got to worry about ugly IRMA rules. Your Social Security all of a sudden is tax out the yin-yang. That's a provisional income formula you got to worry about. And by golly, there's no telling what the marginal tax rates are going to be in the future, right? So there's so many compounding events that are going to take place over the next 15 to 30 years of your life. If we could look at the future and do a projection, the what if projection. What if the markets crash? What if hyperinflation comes in? What if taxes do go up? What if Social Security stops taxing you? What if the provisional income formula gets worse and you're taxed more on your Social Security? They could change those rules. So it is scary to see the future of our economy, knowing that the debt that we have today is a bigger bill than we've ever seen in history. And I know they're working on it. Okay. But there's a lot of work to do. There's a tough row to hoe there. And so in the meantime, somebody still has to pay because we don't want markets crashing. We don't want hyperinflation. So yeah, debt's going to continue to rise at the same time. So there's a lot of things that need to be done. And the sooner we can start implementing the plan, the sooner we can be proactive. I tell people, don't put your head in the sand. Just pretend it's not going to happen. Let's play that role of being prudent, doing our homework and showing you the what ifs. And when you come in for that complimentary review, that portfolio x-ray, that income plan, that tax plan, that's what we're doing. We're showing you, hey, on pessimistic viewpoint, this is what your retirement plan looks like. On an optimistic viewpoint, this is what it looks like. Right in the middle, this is what it looks like. And I will tell you, knowing this and seeing it, it helps with confidence in retirement. And I think the retiree, Randy, they just want to have uber confidence in their advisor, in the plan. And if you don't see it and you can't see it and you're not adjusting it from time to time, then I don't know how anybody has confidence and can sleep well at night during retirement.
Well, Charisse is kind of like the scout on the wagon train back in the old days. And she would go out there and say, okay, there's rivers out here, there's Indians out here, there's mountains out here, and that's what's way ahead of us. We got to get ready for that. Because if you're planning your retirement by yourself, you tend to say, this is what I need now, this is what I want to do now, this is what I have as far as my bills now. Charisse will help you look not just to now, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years in the future. Because just like this guy in his late 80s who's all of a sudden run into this huge tax problem, we can show you how that happens, and we can show you what to do about it now so it doesn't happen to you. Give us a call. Give us a look on our website. Let's sit down and do that complimentary retirement consultation. It's 833-368-3680. Again, 833-368-3680. or use our website, zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. Click on that gold box and you'll be on your way. Well, Charisse, here we are. We're right at the beginning of June. We are officially in summer, and everybody just kind of disperses. They all do their vacations and their camps and things. I mean, there's a lot of it's like a real plan going into summertime, isn't it?
It is, especially with my kiddos, because Eli is just about to turn 11 and Ella turned 16 here in August, and time is flying by. I have like 2 more summers after this with Ella, and then she's off to the races, going to college. And then it's just me and Eli, my buddy. And I know he's going to hold me to the fire to fish with him 24/7, which I love doing. But it goes by fast. And so already, this is the first year I've planned very well for summer because the kids want to do a couple of camps, right? So I had to plan for that. And then Ella wants to go to a mission. So she's going on a mission trip. And during that mission trip, I'm like, well, what are Eli and I going to do? So we're doing like a short little 4-day family cruise with my brother. So that's part of, one of our weekends. And then you and I are going to Puerto Rico with a bunch of our other buddies. So we're going to be gone for a week for that. And, I told my son I want to take him on a field trip because he's still doing schooling during the summer, tutoring him at home, which is, I think it's really important, especially for my son, because he needs that extra stuff. So I'm planning that out. I was like, how about a field trip? Because we're really talking about like slavery and Washington and America. And I said, let's go visit the Statue of Liberty and let's go to do those things. And he's so excited about that. So there's a lot of moving parts. And I think everybody's listening like, is Charisse going to be at work at all this summer? And I need you all to know is that Zinnia Wealth Management, there's more than just Charisse Rivers. There's a team of advisors and employees that are happy to work, and we're all, enjoying the summertime and taking off here and there. So yes, the radio show still continues. The TV show still continues. I don't have to worry about that. But I do need this time with my kiddos, right?
Gosh, I think of the first day I met you. You brought Ella in, and she was just a little toddler, and Eli was in a playpen. I was
yes.
like, oh my gosh, how time flies. It's amazing.
Yes. And it does go by fast. And Eli asked me, he's like, can I come on your radio show? I went, yeah, let's get you on the radio this summer. So he's going to come in here. Even Ella, she'll come in here and work and pack envelopes and run the front desk and help Miss Lane at the front desk. And then this is the year Eli is going to come in a little bit. Nice. So when Ella was 11, we started bringing her in, but really when she was 12. So just a lot of planning, over planning, right?
Yep.
Just to get that summer ready. And this is the same type of planning people should be doing before they retire, but they don't.
Yeah, we neglect it. I mean, just in what Charisse was saying there, time flies and it gets past us. And when you think about your retirement, one of the things that we talk about that's so advantageous is to come in a couple of years before you plan on leaving your employer, before you retire. And we spend all this time planning cruises and camps and all these different things for our kids and our families, but then a 30-year journey that you're going to be on called retirement, you kind of let that slide, and we don't want that to happen. I mean, Charisse, if somebody came in right now and said, okay, you're right, Charisse, I have neglected all of this. Where do you start? What does that first meeting look like? And what comes out of that when somebody just comes in and said, yeah, I got to do it. I don't know where to start.
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you this much. If you are not planning retirement like you plan your vacation cruises, Houston, we got a problem.
Yeah.
Right? Because you should be that tenacious and that excited to get ready for retirement and meeting with somebody that actually understands the hazards you're going to go through and will help you spend that money. Because if you're worried to overspend and really create that plan, you should start getting excited about it. And if you are in retirement and you're hearing me, you're like, I'm not excited, I haven't done that, then get excited. Come in. We'll help you get excited because that's what we do here. I love showing new plans to people that who've already been retired that have not had the experience that you have here. So, but there's a lot of work to do, right? And the number one goal is to make sure you don't run out of money. So we got to start working on that plan, making sure that you're pulling the right amount of dollars out of the right amount of buckets and out of and based on the right percentage, right? And figuring out the risk tolerance. And then, hey, Charisse, we want to spend 20 or 30,000 more a year for the next 10 years during our go-go years. Can we actually do that? Because we haven't done it for the first 3 years of retirement, and we work that plan in. And most of the time we say, yes, you can. And then people can start really living the retirement dream the way you saw it 30 years ago and you expected it to be. If you're in retirement, I want you to think back to when you were working and you were 30 and 40. You're like, I can't wait for retirement. And then now you're here, but you're not doing what you said you wanted to do 20, 30 years ago. Get on the retirement train and come to Zinnia, because this is what we're educating you on how to do to help you gain that confidence and know that, hey, can we not? Let's build it together. And I will tell you, there's nothing better than just knowing that even when markets are going down, you can still book those cruises. You can still book those trips out west. You can, go rent that house in North Carolina or in the Florida Keys during lobster season and have those kids come down and pay for it, right?
Yeah, it is interesting that you make that correlation there between in those years you look forward to retirement. Oh, I can't wait till I retire and do all the things. And then you get toward retirement and you get scared.
Yeah.
And I always go back to that story. My buddy and I, we went over to Five Guys to get a burger, and we ran into our friend Pat, and she looked at us and she said hi, and she looked at January 31st. And I said, what's that? She goes, the day I retire, and I am scared to death.
Oh.
And that's how she felt. And that's the way a lot of people feel, is they go into this, and we've been fed this line you're going to run out of money, and Social Security's in trouble, and Medicare is going to get cut back, and we're not going to have enough money, and taxes are going up, and it's no wonder people are scared. And Sharice, I think the cure for that is to come in and look at what the reality is. And when you say do the math, that really is the cure for this, isn't it?
It is. Let's do the math. Let's get back to those dreaming days when you were 30 and 40, wishing that you could retire then and knowing you had to wait till 60. Let's dream about it. Let's make those dreams come true. I love this part of what we do, and so does all of the members here at Team Zinnia.
Well, give us a call, and let's set up that complimentary retirement consultation. It's really just a conversation to get to know you and say, what do you want to do in retirement? What have you done to save for retirement? Let's put the money together with the dreams. And maybe, as Sharice says, do you want to fly coach? Or do you want to fly first class? Maybe we're going to answer questions like that. Yep. That would be kind of fun. Give us a call, 833-368-3680. 833-368-3680, or on our website, zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com, and hit the gold box that says complimentary retirement consultation, and you will be on your way. Sharice, that is all the time we have for today. I'll give you the last word.
All right. Well, summer is upon us. Enjoy the outside weather. It is beautiful. And as usual, live by design and not by default. And we'll see you here next week.
This has been Retirement Coffee Talk. To find out more about how the strategies we've discussed on this program can build the retirement you've been wanting, call Zinnia Wealth at 352-368-3680 or visit us online at zinniawealth.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, a registered investment advisor. The firm only conducts business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded from registration requirements. Registration is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. Insurance products are offered through Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC, Florida license L078655, and Sharice Rivers, Florida license P037744. Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, and Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC are affiliated entities. The information presented is believed to be current. It should not be viewed as personalized investment advice. All expressions of opinion reflect the judgment of the presenter on the date of the podcast and are subject to change. The information presented is not an offer to buy or sell or a solicitation of any offer to buy or sell any of the securities discussed. You should consult with a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies discussed. Any legal or tax information provided in this podcast is general in nature. Always consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation. Any client experience discussed on this show are unique to that client. Annuity and life insurance guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. If you withdraw money from or surrender your contract within a certain time after investing, the insurance company may assess a surrender charge. Withdrawals may be subject to tax penalties and income taxes. Persons selling annuities or other insurance products receive compensation for these transactions. These commissions are separate and distinct from fees charged for advisory services. Insurance products also contain additional fees and expenses. Social Security rules and regulations are subject to change at any time. Always consult with your local Social Security office before acting upon any information provided herein. References to specific investments should not be construed as being past specific recommendations. The returns for various indices discussed in this podcast do not represent the performance of the firm or any of its advisory clients. Returns do not reflect the impact that advisory fees will have on an investment. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. All investment strategies have potential for profit or loss. Different types of investments involve higher and lower levels of risk. There is no guarantee that a specific investment strategy will be suitable or profitable for an investor's portfolio. Historical performance returns for investment indexes and/or categories usually do not deduct transaction and/or custodial charges or advisory fees, which would decrease historical performance results. There are no guarantees that a portfolio will match or outperform a specific benchmark. Investments in fixed income products are subject to liquidity risk, market risk, index rate risk, credit risk, inflation risk, purchasing power risk, and taxation risk. Because bond prices fluctuate continually, their yields change constantly.